Hey, welcome to HR Famous, brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies. Named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider, Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com. HR Famous is also brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of HR Famous. I'm Tim Sackett, and with me is my team, Jessica Lee and Chris Dunn. Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing good. Living the life in lockdown.
Living the life in lockdown. KD, it's day 5,623 of the COVID lockdown. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I've got a standing desk, so I'm standing up a little bit these days. I'm part of the achievers.
Hey, Jay Lee, so KD got the standing desk. I had some extra at the office. We sent him one. And then this morning, I actually sent him a YouTube video that was standing desk yoga.
I haven't watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's I lean over when I'm at my desk and when I'm sitting, but then when I'm standing, I feel really good. But then I'm also feeling like I should be doing some yoga stuff as well. Anyways, we digress. So we finally had the chance, all of us, to watch Hamilton. We were waiting for Jessica to actually get on Disney Plus, knock off all the Disney movies that your kids watch and say, nope, we're watching Hamilton. And so
by the way, it almost didn't happen though, because Bobby and I were like, this is so long. We're like, this is too long. We can't sit through this. This is long. It almost didn't happen.
Was it 3 hours? What is it?
Almost 3. And I was like, well, thank God there's an intermission.
And so what we wanted to do about Hamilton, because I'm a super fan. KD, I turned into a super fan. Jessica, first, I guess we'll get your reaction to Hamilton the musical. What did you think? And please don't make me hate you.
No, I see why people love it. I think it is a brilliant idea. I get it. I get the allure. There are pieces of it that I have questions about, but I respect it. Are you a musical Broadway fan to begin with? No, so I'm not a musical Broadway fan to begin with. I'm not the biggest history buff. And so there are things I learned from it. There's things I appreciate about it, but there's things that are glossed over that can't be covered in a 3-hour musical that, I have some questions about. And I'll tell you, the thing that I can't get over is I love that it's a cast of all people of color and it's re-envisioning history. But the sad irony is none of the people who are, playing these characters would have been in the positions of being in the room and things of that sort in real life. And so it's so weird to me, but I get it. I see the allure and I see that there's a lot of interesting things about it.
So your husband, Bobby J, is at his heart of hearts is a musical guy, loves music. What did he think?
He liked the approach to the music, the modernity of it. He thought it was catchy. I think like me, he respects what it is, and can see the allure. It's fun. It's hard not to like it.
All right. So what I want to do is I want to ask you guys, if you could put us all into a character of Hamilton, which would it be? And I will start and I'll tell you who I think everybody is. So first off, I think KD is George Washington because I think he's a respected, quiet leader. Has a lot of stature. He has that presence, and I think KD has that. And then Jay Lee, I had two that I think you are, right? First off, I know that you think you're Hamilton. I don't think because by the way, I'm Hamilton because the dude never stops writing. but I think you're Thomas Jefferson because he was a bit of a Francophile. I think, he had the elitist kind of mentality, and you're upper crust, you're upper crust for sure. Or you could be Angelica, who I thought was just a kick-ass woman character in the play as well, super strong character. So that's who I have. So I'll go with KD. I'm going to go to you. You have to. Who do you think Jessica and I are, and then who do you think yourself is?
So I like your connections with Jlee, both to Jefferson and Angelica. I think why I would land on those is its combination. Jlee has always been one of the more stylistic people in my lives, or in my life. Lots of style. Also, style mixed with hard opinion would land me on Jefferson for her. Jefferson had strong opinions.
Not afraid to get an opinion, boy.
In the musical, not afraid to mix it up, and did it all with a lot of style and grace that was kind of over exaggerated in the musical. It's not over exaggerated.
By the way, we're making her. Now she'll be going back and watching those sections. You know this.
So I'm interested to hear a little more why both of you think you're Hamilton. So I'll flip it to Jlee in a second. Now, what I'll say, Tim, is for you. You could go Hamilton in terms of, hey, the dude never stops writing. You could probably say that about me through my career too. I think I would probably, if it's not Hamilton for you, I would probably go and there aren't super defined. I'm sorry?
The King?
No, not the King, although that's a great character. Maybe Lafayette, who fought with the colonial troops and had this vision to go back. And the reason I say that is I think Hamilton, you're warmer than I am. You're this hugs guy. I don't think Hamilton was a hugs guy. So I think the character for you has to have more charisma once you get away from the writing thing. And then last but not least, and Jlee, we'll throw it to you. You say that I'm George Washington. So who am I? Huge compliment, because my favorite character in the whole thing was played by an actor named Tamir Green in the Chicago cast. I think he's unbelievable. I think he knocks it out of the park. I think he's better than the original. And so that's a huge, huge compliment. But what I would tell you is another potential for me, and I'll throw it to you, Jlee, is probably Aaron Burr. And not because he's the one that killed Hamilton, because I'm clearly, I like you a lot, Tim, so I would never want to do that to you. But his whole thing was he was very much in the middle, unwilling to show too much of a hand to either side. Talk less,
smile more.
Don't let them know how to go.
Don't know what
you're against or who you're
for. Yeah.
So I like that balance a little bit. So I might go that way with me. Jlee, what do you got?
Well, this may be controversial, but Chris, I do see a little bit of King George in you, but not for the reasons that. So the way I perceive King George, I think he's made out to be a bad guy in the musical. But what I see in him is a strong leader with presence. And I see a level of charisma in King George that I think you can't deny it. He is a charming leader. He's got gravitas, and you can't deny the presence that he brings. And I think that there is an element of humor when it comes to who he is. And I like it. There's strength in him. There's presence. And I don't see fully the tyrant, dictator side of things. He's a leader. He's a leader through and through, who comes with presence. You walks into the room and he's arrived. And I like that.
And so you see, that's who you associate me with. I feel like I'm the big winner in this. I got George Washington. Okay, thank you, Jlee. Please continue. Who do you have for Tim?
Yes. Well, and so for Tim, I do see you as Hamilton, even though I see myself as Hamilton, except for I agree. I don't think Hamilton is as, charismatic and warm of a person as you are. But I think that the style in terms of grinding it out, not taking advantage of opportunities. I think those are things that I see. And then of course the never stop writing, is a component that probably comes to life in both of you.
The other piece, I think he wouldn't take no, right? Like he had something in his mind that it had to be his way, and I struggle with that, like as a development opportunity for myself. So,
and then for myself, I mean, I'd like to say that I am more of a Hamilton than a Jefferson. I mean, the thing that resonates with me about Hamilton and why I want to like fall in that camp is like comes from nothing, doesn't come from a place of privilege, like bootstrap the heck out of life. And like what I love about Hamilton is like he lands and then he's like he is an outsider, but then he quickly becomes like part of the establishment because he learns quickly and he picks up like, figures things out and, then becomes who he is. Probably like the dynamic with him and his wife and her family and his indiscretions are things that I would not want to associate with. But I don't know. I see flavors of Hamilton in myself.
Immigrants, you get the job done.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, we got one more thing we want to talk about, and then we're going to talk about the majority of what we want to talk about today is about around new grads and kind of the struggle during COVID. Actually, bringing in a special guest for that. But before we do that, like a big announcement happened this past week with Glassdoor and Indeed. For those who don't know, Indeed and Glassdoor are owned by the same company called Recruit out of Japan, the Japanese company, and so they've always kind of run separate companies since they've owned over the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years. But they made an announcement that they're actually having more of a structured kind of merger between the two companies where Indeed is going to be using the employment branding and job postings and all that stuff, putting all that stuff up into Glassdoor. And then they're going to be sucking out of the review data from Glassdoor into Indeed. For my own like HR tech kind of worldview of this is that's bad news for Glassdoor. They had such a great, strong brand separately. I don't think this shows well since Indeed is so much bigger than they are. I foresee that this is kind of the end of most of Glassdoor. Your guys' reaction to that?
One of the things I would say, Tim, is it's probably also for a short period of time, it's good for employers, but then it's bad for employers. So I think like related to all the angst that people generally have about Glassdoor, if you're in the world of HR and you represent a brand and an employer brand, I think you'd be happy to see Glassdoor go down a little bit in influence. The problem with that is that you don't necessarily want Indeed to grab all that space and to package all that together under one umbrella. I think you lose negotiating power. And I think it becomes harder to ignore company reputation. There's a lot of people that haven't paid the ransom to Glassdoor for their set of services. If you have, it's great because you have to be in that space. But I think like Indeed getting that and like combining that, it's not a good thing for employers related to trying to control their own brand for like in 3 years. I think it might be fine for 1 year, but in 3, it's not great.
Well, KD, you and I have had we have a long history with Glassdoor. We've done some work with them way back in the past, and we actually respect them pretty highly for their ability not to allow employers to go in and adjust bad reviews and do all of that. They protected that data really well because they knew that was really the value that they gave to the world, right? And so but I don't have that same faith with Indeed at all. Like I think Indeed will sell out the first chance somebody offers them $1 to change a review or to hide a review or to eliminate a review. So I think, unfortunately for Glassdoor, I don't think it's good news. Jessica, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I feel like we should have seen this coming, though, at a certain point. Like you've got overlap, duplication, probably in terms of their operations, in terms of talent. And so for this to happen, especially right now when we're going through, this economic and global situation that we're going through, I mean, I'm sure this was cost savings measure for them also to go this path. So I'm not shocked. But like, I also like have wondered, like, is there too much internal competition between the two of them? Are things cannibalizing one another? So ultimately for the job seeker, for employers, like, is this the best move? Like time will tell, but not shocked. Bound to happen.
For sure. All right, let's talk new grads.
All right, I'm taking the reins, Tim and Jlee. We're going to talk just about like early career folks. And a great way to get this conversation started is to bring the the only, the legend, Cameron Sackett, a member of the Sackett household, new University of Michigan grad. He's in the job market post-COVID or in COVID. We're not post-COVID. Yeah. Cameron, great to have you here. We just kind of want to talk about your job search a little bit, and then we're going to talk about like broader stuff from a career perspective for young folks entering the workforce. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing the job search thing every single day. Tim Sackett's been on the grind this week.
Has he? Tell me about that grind.
Hey, by the way, do we want to let him give him some time just to talk about how great his dad is first, or?
Well, that was on my list, but it was like third or fourth on the list. Tim Sackett. All right, so Cameron Sackett, congratulations again on graduating. Sorry you're entering this like hellhole of a career search. Tell us like what your ideal job is. I think we maybe did that 3 or 4 months ago, but let's reset. Tell us what your ideal job is, and just kind of lay that out. What do you really want to do? And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you're finding this job search in this shithole we call the COVID landscape.
Yeah, I think in a perfect world, I'd be working for a media company, probably in the TV space, in a social media, digital media type of role. But we're not in a perfect world anymore. So I'm just trying to find anything within the marketing space that is, tangentially related to media or close to the digital space would be great.
Got it. And, we can see your dad, Tim Sackett, here. He approves of your response, which is great. He wants to jump in. He's doing his best not to. He's got his lip first. Right, Jlee? Do you see him? He's got his lip
He's
first.
just waiting, but holding back.
Not to jump in. All right. So that's the target, Cameron. Obviously, this is a tough thing. What are you doing in this job search? What does your week, I guess, in a broader sense, in your days look like with the time you're dedicating to job search? Kind of tell us like your activity. What are you doing? Like, how are you trying to connect with people and just navigate this really lean scene?
Yeah. So part of it is definitely just searching for jobs online. I usually go on LinkedIn and ZipRecruiter, just combing through the jobs every couple of days. And then I have a pretty elaborate spreadsheet that has like links to everything and descriptions. And if I ever get an email back, I'll put the response in there. And then also going on LinkedIn and searching for University of Michigan alums that work at companies that I'd be interested in or that I'm applying to. That was really pushed from my father. He wants me to do that. So definitely doing that. And then fielding whatever emails are coming my way. A lot of them coming through my dad, if he's reaching out to someone, and just making sure I'm reaching out to them and staying connected with whoever is reaching out to me or whoever I'm reaching out to as well. And then this week I did Lori Rudiman's podcast. And so just trying to put myself out there in ways beyond just applying for jobs and talking to people, but also staying active within the field that I would like to be working in.
Yeah, no, it's good. Tell me about when you connect with somebody from the University of Michigan. I think that's a great idea. Everybody can learn from. Not everybody's got Tim Sackett like placing you on podcasts, right? In the broader sense, or Chris Dunn or Jessica Lee to a lesser extent putting you on their podcast. Tell me about your like communication with people from the U of Michigan. Like when you connect with them, how are you bridging that? That's a really good thing everybody can learn from.
Yeah, it's a variance because the University of Michigan has such a wide alumni base. So there's definitely some people that are very gung-ho about helping a recent grad or just any University of Michigan alum, and they definitely want to connect with you and have a conversation with you. But there are also some people that, they went to Michigan just to get the degree and they're kind of out of it now. And I have to say, I'm kind of running into more people that are in that camp, which is not the greatest. They might just like click the accept for the connection on LinkedIn, but never actually say anything to you. And so I've definitely had a lot more people that fall into that camp, but you once in a while will find a really enthusiastic University of Michigan alum that will really want to speak with you. But I just haven't really found anyone that I've connected with that is in that space.
Can I ask, are you doing that solely through LinkedIn, or is there anything like through the school that helps like enable connecting to alums?
Yeah, did you use Handshake or whatever?
Yeah, they do use Handshake, but It's definitely more oriented for students. Actually, to get into the University of Michigan Alumni Association, you have to pay over $1,000.
Racket.
And I'm not going to do that. So, and they give a deal to new grads where it's $750.
25% off.
It's insane. So I have not paid that high price, and I don't know if I will, but they definitely have those programs set up for students.
You should not have to pay that.
No.
I agree.
No. Crazy.
I understand. I think, again, I went to University of Wyoming for my undergrad, which was literally like 10 cents on the dollar compared to U of M. And they let you in for free for a number of years until you got, and then they just pimp you constantly for donations and stuff like that. Like it's crazy to me that a new grad has to pay to get into that alumni association.
Hey, I'm Katie Van Horn. And I'm Jackie Clayton. We're your hosts of the Inclusive AF podcast, where we take on DEI, leadership, and HR without all the corporate fluff. That's right. We've got decades of experience, a lot of opinions, and zero tolerance for performative anything. Every week, we dig into what it really takes to build inclusive workplaces with honesty, strategy, and a few side eyes. We'll talk about the tough stuff, power dynamics, privilege, what's broken in the system, and how we can all do better. And don't worry, it's not all heavy. We bring receipts, laughs, and real talk from people actually doing the work. Think of it as your weekly dose of truth, tips, and a little tea to help you lead with intention and show up for your people. So if you're ready to push past the buzzwords and get into the actual work of inclusion, you're in the right place. So subscribe to the Inclusive AF podcast. New episodes drop every week. Catch us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be here breaking it down one inclusive convo at a time.
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous.
It's one of many ways that all of this, career scene has really blown up, right? Tim and Jessica. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much money being made and flowing through this entire system. To hear that the discount causes Cam to have to pay $750 is insane, but kind of expected. By the way, Cam, and I'll throw it back to Jlee and Tim for any questions they have. Welcome to the wonderful world of LinkedIn when you're trying to get things done. I would tell you your experience in terms of, hey, you think, and you're right to consider that you've got this connection. You're probably doing a really warm message, and you throw it out there. And then 80% of the people just accept it, and they don't even acknowledge the question that's in there. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's the way it works for most people. And by the way, that's, with so many people impacted by COVID who are older than you, maybe mid-career, that's exactly the way it's working for them. One of the things that happens, I think, Jlee, is that there's more activity flowing through the system with people trying to network. And Cam, this is not a reflection on you, but it's people that have already been in the workforce didn't have networks before they needed them. And as a result, there's so much activity flowing through those systems that it's probably even less of a response rate than you would have gotten before. Don't you think, Jlee?
Oh, totally. I was talking to someone this morning who is probably in their 50s, really great career, currently furloughed, doing a job search. And it's exactly what he said to me this morning was he's engaging his network as as he would have in the past in any other situation. But his network is getting hit up left and right. And so it's a little bit noisy. But one of the things I was wondering is, Cam, I wonder if there's an opportunity to put to use some of your skills to position or pitch yourself with media outlets as someone who is a job seeker coming into the market, experiencing things in the midst of COVID. I don't know, is there a lot of coverage in media about this topic or people like you?
I don't know if it's I'm sure there is in certain aspects of media and podcasts being a medium and all of that, but I don't know if in the TV realm or the spaces that I have had experience in media are really talking about, I guess, this topic. But I think it's something that is relevant and definitely is of interest to many people.
I want to see Cam on CNN, CNBC, these outlets.
Call me Anderson Cooper.
Yes, well, talking to Anderson or others about
Yeah.
like what life is like right now. We should come up with a
Hey,
plan. around it.
Cam, one lead I have for you is there's a system that you can subscribe to called Help a Reporter Out. HARO is the HARA or HARO. But anyway, go search for that and you can get to their newsletter. They do a morning list and a lead list of like leads that reporters are like looking for. They want to talk to people, experts, people that are straight up in the demographic like you are with the new grad. Check that out. That might be a possibility for you to pick up a couple of those leads that Jaylee's mentioned.
Yeah. That's cool. I'll definitely check it
Tim,
out.
before we let Cam go, or we're not going to let Cam go, but we're going to move on and talk about a couple of other things.
Yeah.
What's your reflection? You have anything to add? You've been quiet as we've interviewed Cam. Like, what do you got? What's your perspective as a dad in this scene?
No, I think it's hard as a parent when you see your kid go through all, like literally, go through and meet, kind of reach their goals and their dreams to, go to a great university and graduate. And again, up until like, January, February of this year, thinking like, hey, he did all the right stuff, internships with great companies, jobs during school, all the activities during school, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh gosh, I mean, I couldn't have wrote him a better resume for an entry level. I'm like, he's going to kill it. He'll have jobs, no big deal. And then boom, this hits. And we all know, what that's going to look like over the next couple of years in terms of unemployment and just difficulty. So, then all of a sudden you start to see those things kind of do. Now, do I think like he won't reach his dreams? No, I think it will. But KD, like we're going to talk about, I think there's a lot of these new grads are going to have to accept roles and jobs and things that they didn't think they would have to, and kind of grind their way through a few years to get to where they want to go versus going, I'm going to be able to start today, right out of college in the job I want, because there was such ultra low unemployment. That's not going to happen. So, I think at the end of the day, he'll be better for it than those younger ones coming up that won't have to do that grind or go through that experience. I did have one question for Cam because I know him and I have been sharing information back and forth, and something that all of us are passionate about, which is that candidate experience side, and knowing that you have so many people applying to jobs. Cam, what's the response rate you're getting when you apply to jobs, and what percentage are you saying is actually giving you anything of consequence to what when you get turned down or whatever?
So I've applied to almost getting close to 150 jobs. And I get automated responses from maybe 25% everything when I apply, but 25% rejections. But I would say it's astronomically low if I hear anything. I haven't heard anything in months from most people, and the candidate experience has been really poor.
Yeah, so I reached out to Kevin Grossman on the talent board who does the Candies and Candidate Experience Awards, and I kept saying Kevin, I think the data from 2021 is just going to hit you guys in the face. He's like, it's already happening. We're already seeing the data coming back at super. It's already getting worse, not getting better, which is crazy because when we had ultra low unemployment, you would think everybody was focused on candidate experience and making sure that at least what you do is you acknowledge that you got their resume and then you disposition, which disposition is just saying, hey, you're rejected. At the very least, you disposition 100% of your candidates. And he's like, it's still under 50% of organizations that are doing those two things, which to me, I just can't even understand with all the automation we have that they can't do that.
Yeah.
Click a button. It's all click a button.
Yeah. Disposition. Yep. All right, Cam, you're welcome to stay around. Jlee, I'm gonna throw it to you after I give this intro. I wanted to spend a little time because Tim and I talk more than I talk with you, Jlee, and obviously I want to change that. I want to become much more connected to you, Jlee. But I think one of the things that's interesting is we're all parents. Jlee has younger kids. I'm kind of trailing Tim just a little bit, but I've got a freshman in college and a junior in high school. Jlee, the ages of yours and grades if they're in young elementary yet?
3.5, 5.5, rising kindergartner. Is that, or rising pre-K? Yeah.
And Tim, go ahead and lay it out. Cam's your middle son. What are the
23, 22, 17.
Yeah. So
20.
Yeah. So one of the things
I'm thinking is that I got it wrong.
I'm 21.
Yeah, he'll be 22. Like he'll be 22 in a couple of weeks, like a month, I guess. Yeah.
So when I think about Cam and like high performing like candidates that are like new grads, young grads, like one of the things I really like struggle with a little bit, Jlee, is just early career expectations, especially in a COVID world. And I really feel, and I feel this way for my freshman in college too. Like he feels it, although I think he's less connected, and he's not chasing it as hard at least yet as Cam did through his college career. But I think there's so much information out there, Jlee, whether it's like, media coverage, social media, just this whole escalation of the college admissions scene. There's so much like pressure and like coverage in that. I wonder if that sets us up, even like in normal economic times, like from an expectations perspective. Are we setting the right expectations for the high performing kids coming right out of school? Like part of me is kind of pissed off for kids like Cam, because to Tim's point, they did everything right, and now they find themselves like this. And by the way, there's some like segment that has the same expectation. Maybe they didn't do as much as Cam. That even during great economics times, there's always this slice, Jlee, of kids that don't hit what they want to hit as quickly as they would like it.
Well, so it's hard for me on this topic because as we have discussed, me being a tiger mom in the making and, what I want for my children, I probably will be, maybe, who knows, time will tell, but I can envision that I would be the type of parent who would expect and, want for them to have very concrete plans laid out that they are mapping against and achieving at an early age, and that we get them on the right path. But like the practical side of me also feels like, what do you know? Like, you don't really know what you don't know at that point. So many things change and people get themselves set on a path to pursue a career or an area of interest that doesn't pan out to be like what they hope and expect, or maybe it's not even a good fit. So it's a hard topic for me. But the thing that I wonder about sometimes is like, can we just blame like colleges to a certain degree? Because they're all, like they're competing against each other, right? Like they want to get students in the door. They want those tuition dollars. And part of what, they have as a metric that, helps with the competition is graduation rates, placement into jobs and things of that sort. And I sometimes worry that are they selling something and trying to achieve something in order to just keep their pipeline full of potential students, and it's mucking with this entire system.
So Jlee, that's the perfect transition, because this whole escalation, you've got college Capitol building campaigns, right? They're building all this stuff, which fine. But they're treating it like a business, but they're in the background, they've got the nonprofit. You've got the admission wars. And it just so happens, Jlee, that we've got somewhat of an expert on the admission wars in Tim Sackett. Tim did this great post on the Tim Sackett Project, literally talking, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, about Cameron's experience with the admissions process, correct? You wanna talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, it was clear. It was right about the time when he was, going through and trying to apply to colleges as a rising senior. He was a junior. And so wrote that blog post, and it was, for me, it was always about, he wanted to go to Duke, maybe Northwestern, some really great schools, did everything he could from a grade standpoint, from an extracurricular standpoint. The reality was he was never getting accepted to those schools because there's such a limited number of folks, that were going to be, in that. And so for me, the post was not about, hey, my kid, didn't get into school. Wah. It was like, why wouldn't it be better if every kid could get into the school they wanted to, right? And that's, because as a parent, you just feel like, hey, because here's the thing, like Jlee, you're going to tell your kids, like, you just work hard and you get the best grades and you do the right things and you can go to Harvard. Turns out that's not the case, right? They maybe one of them can, maybe none of them can. Who knows?
Might get harder for Asians, but I digress.
No, but that's
right.
So you run into all of these issues, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so I think, that was one of those things that I was always, early on, fretting regarding the whole university thing. But, and that post still gets so much traffic and crazy comments. So it's funny.
I actually subscribe to the comments. and I ping Tim every once in a while, but I'll get like, I mean, this is like 3 or 4 years old now, right? I mean, because it was
5, yeah,
right? Because it was around the time Cam was coming out of high school, and I still subscribe to the comments. Some are unbelievable, and then some are unbelievably horrible people coming into the comment stream. But one thing's common with all those comments for the most part is 95% of the comments are from people who were disgusted with that admissions process. And by the way, Cam, I'm going to bring you back in here real quick. By the way, for the uninitiated, in terms of Cameron Sackett and, admission candidates of his ilk, we're not talking about a kid that really tried hard and like pulled a 3.2 GPA. Okay, high performing, high ACT, and just based on limited slots couldn't get in. Cam, do you remember? You're a high performing kid. You're going to do awesome things in your life, like 100%. Do you remember that whole process? Was that like gut wrenching for you?
Yeah, it was definitely frustrating. I think by the time that I think it's like March rolls around when you hear, I definitely had lowered my expectations of what was going to happen. And I think by then, Duke was my dream for 4 or 5 years before I had applied. And I was like, Duke is probably not it, but everything else is like, I think I'm kind of on that borderline. And it's hard. I come from a community where there's a lot of kids like me that are do all the extracurriculars and have great resources outside of school to help them get into these colleges. And so it's hard to see your friends also not getting in the same places, but I have no regrets. University of Michigan is an incredible school and will set me up for a lifetime of success. However, it was a frustrating experience.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, Tim, you've got one and I've got one. We both have juniors, right?
Yep.
Rising juniors. How does Cameron compare to your younger son in terms of having a master plan by the time he's 17?
No, Cam's exceptional in terms of Cam's always had a plan. He said, he talked about his job spreadsheet. He had a college spreadsheet as well. He's super organized. So he's unlike a lot of kids, especially, at that age. And so our youngest, he doesn't, he just thinks, oh, I'm going to follow Cam. I'm going to U of M and I'm going to be a scientist. He doesn't even know what that means.
Not a bad plan. And it's okay to have that broad plan. Jlee, so you've got kids coming up. You talked about what you expect from yourself. I don't know if that includes Bobby as well, but is it I struggle a little bit with where I came from. And I think Tim would agree, just in terms of how he was raised in his early career jobs. Is it, the expectations? I think there's pressure on everybody to have the master plan by the time you're 17 or 18. What happened to expectations? Is it okay? Is it no longer okay to have a master plan by the time you're 17? And Jlee, comment on that. Tell us about you at 17 or 18. I'd be interested in that. I don't think I've ever heard that story.
Or even 21, 22, graduating college.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us about just kind of react to that. Did you have a master plan, Jlee?
Man. Well, so I think as a child of an immigrant and then my husband also being in that situation, and immigrant parents who were tiger parents, we both experienced, the threat and wrath of tiger parents where, it's not necessarily that there was crazy expectations that we have a plan, but it was just crazy expectations that you must go to college, you must go to an Ivy League college, and you need to have a damn good job when you come out of it. And there are a finite set of jobs. It's jobs that have some kind of tangible like license in the mix. So attorney, doctor, dentist. I think Bobby failed his parents.
Pharmacist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like second tier. Lower on the ladder. And so I failed those expectations by barely graduating high school, barely getting into college, and barely making my way through that. But I figured out how to grind it out and do it otherwise. And then for Bobby, met a lot of expectations, but was like a lower tier career choice. But I think we have like this weird struggle of we're both high achieving. We want a lot. We have aggressive goals for ourselves. And we want that for our children as well. But then at the same time, like the pressure of that is something that I don't think either of us want to put on our kids. Like he feels like he was stuck, going down a path of pursuing medicine and didn't even choose the right path from his parents' perspective. And he hates it. Like he hates his job. He hates his day job. He hates what he does. It is the last thing in the world he would want to be doing. He would have wanted to pursue art and music instead. And he did that on the side, but he still hates his job. So I think we don't want to see them in that situation, but we also don't want them living in our basement, mooching off of us forever. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Jlee, I got to follow up. Tell me about you. Like, so you grew up in, daughter of immigrants, everything that you described. It sounds like you rejected that a little bit. Did you reject it? Like, because it's, you kind of described yourself, as you came through that and where you ended up, and you're high achieving, and which is one of the things I want to talk about in just a second, because I do believe that the cream generally rises to the top regardless of those outcomes early. But tell us, like, did you reject that? Like as a young daughter, did you reject that thing? Why did you not end up where they wanted you to?
Yeah. I mean, youngest child, rebellious streak. Like my brother was the perfect example, like Mensa, brains, went Ivy League, became an engineer, and was like the perfect child. So we had that pressure of like, you got to do what your brother did. And I hated it. And I still have a rebellious streak where I was like, screw it. I'm not going to follow this path. I will do well enough on my SATs and grades to get by. But I didn't want to. I was in the parking lot smoking cigarettes, getting tattoos at an underage. But like, I think, there's something to what you're saying in terms of cream of the crop if I'm going to pat myself on the back, because there was a rebellious streak, but I also knew that like, I didn't want to rely on my parents, couldn't rely on them. So I figured it out. And despite all the F-ups, I did okay, you guys.
You sure did. And Tim, I would tell you, and this is why even like why Cam like finds himself in this economy. Like I fully believe that the cream always rises to the top. I think it's brains, it's drive, it's ambition. I think Cam has all those. I think I just heard Scout barking in the background. Is that correct, Cam?
Hey, Scout.
It's all good. But I think, Tim, the cream always rises to the top. And I think Jlee, like if you think about her, like a lot of the stuff that got ingrained in her in the household she grew up in, she took. Like it might have not manifested itself like, coming out like into college and like, like what she did early, but clearly it took late. Tim, do you also agree the cream rises to the top?
No, for sure. I mean, I think KD, and Jess, you might be like this a little bit too, is when we graduated college, it was just, you get a job. It didn't really even have to be in, whatever you were doing. Like my undergrad's elementary education, and I ended up in talent acquisition HR field. So, but it was just like, I knew I was going to have multiple jobs. And I guess I didn't think that, right? I think like Cameron too, is like, you're like, oh, I'm going to get hired into a company. I'm going to love that company. They're going to love me. I'm going to work my way up and I'm going to be there forever. Then the reality that we all know is like, you're probably going to have like 10 to 15 jobs in your lifetime, And so it's like, I understand like the pressure he feels to say, oh, I want to start in this media company, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is like, he's probably going to start in some other kind of company. He's going to work. He's going to do great. And then he's going to move on to something else. And eventually he'll fall into something that he loves. By the way, it might not even be media marketing or any of that. It could be something completely different that he just goes and does and goes, oh my gosh, I never thought I would love, doing this, but now I do. So I think that grind will happen. Maybe not, maybe he'll, be lucky and fall into HBO or NPR or something like that. It'd be awesome. That'd be cool. So, but if it doesn't, he'll be fine.
And I think it's good. It's good to be driven and have goals. And if you can get those goals like right off the bat, awesome. It's good. I just think that great things happen to people with all the right stuff. The drive, the initiative, the education, which in this case, Cam clearly has. Jlee, back to like how you described yourself. I don't know if you saw this, like early this week, I was talking to Tim about it. I did a post on the HR Capitalist, and I had somebody reach out to me. And when I went back to get an MBA, I actually worked overnight in a call center. So I know a lot about like that whole role. Well, this individual was like reaching out to me to think about like how she can improve herself in her career. Turns out she had been in a big brand, like big company call center. The problem wasn't that she was in a CSR role, Jlee. My problem, the thing I wrote about, was the fact that she was still in the same CSR role with a big brand 3 years later. And, so I'm a big believer that you can drop the right person into any job, Jlee, and the cream's going to rise to the top because they're going to like do the work. They're going to impress people. They're going to connect with people, and then they're going to get the hell out of that job like as quick as they can. Any reaction to that?
Well, so like, I love that. I love the post and I love that example, like, especially as we're talking to Cam and anyone who is like trying to figure out what do they do for the next step. Like there might be opportunities out there that people, don't want to take. They feel like it's not within the plan. But like, if you just take call centers as an example, there's so much turnover in call centers. And so to find someone, I'm thinking about it from a company perspective, like to find someone who's got raw talent, who is a hard worker, who can grind it out. Like that's what you want. And you want to keep cultivating that. You want to have those success stories. Like every company always is trying to find like these amazing, data points and statistics around. We had these people on the front line who moved into management, who moved into leadership. And we love those stories. We love pointing that to say, like, look at what we can do when we take someone from the hourly rank and file and move them up on a path. And so I agree with you. I mean, 3 years in the same role in a call center, I'm not quite sure about that, but like there's so much opportunity. And I think companies are hungry to take people in those roles and make something of them.
Yeah, I think that's right. And by the way, I wouldn't suggest that you can go into any call center and achieve your career goals. Like there's a lot of chop shops out there in terms of outsourcers and stuff like that I wouldn't say. All right. So we're talking just kind of this whole career scene right now. It's really complex. I think I'm going to go to Jlee. I'm going to go back to you in a second. I think, Cam, you're still with us. Sorry, you're hitting this during the COVID period. But you kind of heard that conversation. I think all of us have the belief that, great talent always rises to the top. You're going to get there. Cam, do you have any like reactions to our conversation or like any like questions to put us on the spot that you want to ask us? And then we'll wrap it up and I'll get us out of here.
Yeah, I think my reaction reading that was looking at it from my experience. I have done a little bit more than I think most college grads have with all of the internships and jobs that I've done and the extracurriculars and going to the top school. And so it's a hard pill for me to swallow, especially because Michigan has so much pressure on all of their students to be successful immediately. And so it's hard for me to even say, like, if I went into a dream company and I'm going to do this call center job, I think that would be a hard pill for me to swallow. I think like that would have to be my first job. I don't know if I would be comfortable, okay with doing that. But I did have this conversation with my dad yesterday. And if I am going into a company that I know has this really great career building like atmosphere, and they just have this environment where they are going to excel their employees and move them to where they want to be eventually, I would be more open to doing that. But I think that's hard to figure out you're outside of the company, like what the culture is like.
Yeah. And Cam, to be clear, I don't know that that's your path, right? I wouldn't suggest that. I think you're right on the money. But what I would suggest is for kids, I don't call them kids, but young career folks that don't necessarily have A to Z where they think they want to go, it's okay to land somewhere with a really good brand, because great things can happen and you can find that path. But it's a great point. It's a great reaction. Jlee, I'll go to you, and then we'll go to Tim, and then I'll get us out of here. Any final thoughts for Cam? So post-COVID environment, anything you've heard that you would recommend to him as he tries to navigate this?
I think I'm hearing all the right things. I think you have to just stay focused, keep grinding it out. I do think we have this opportunity to get you in front of media as like a storyteller of what fresh grads are experiencing. So I think we got to pursue this.
Let's do
it.
Tim Sackett, I'm sure it's been months since you've given Cam advice. What advice do you have for him?
My only advice, and I like to tell this to everybody, not just Cam, because I have a lot of his friends that will reach out, and a lot of my kids' friends reach out to me for help for finding jobs, which is more than likely you won't get your job by applying through a career site ATS or through ZipRecruiter, through Indeed, any of those. You're going to get a job through your network. You're going to get a job by getting your resume in the hands of somebody in your network who's going to pass it on to somebody who has that opening, because hiring managers love to do that, right? They love to go and throw that resume in the face of HR or talent acquisition and say, look, I found my own person. And so I do think that's how he'll end up getting the job he wants, is probably through that network. So keep pimping that network, keep building that network, keep going through that. And then, Jlee and I will work to get him on CNBC and all the great, outlets out there.
Cam, I would close. My advice to you is wherever you slot in for this first job, do as good as you can, like keep pushing for where you want to be. But when it comes down to it, if you go a half notch down from where you want to be in the first job, it's all details, because the cream's going to rise to the top. You're going to kick ass and you're going to get all this done. You're going to look back when you're 30 and you're not going to remember this fondly, but you'll smile just like I see you smiling right now on the camera. Okay, so he's Cameron Sackett. Look him up. Best way to find you, I'm assuming LinkedIn, where all those people are ignoring your messages, Cameron?
Yes, that's a great way. Please message me. I'll actually respond.
So make sure you check out Cameron Sackett. Great talent available. I wanted to talk about this just because I see it every day. And Jlee, thanks for sharing your story. I learned a lot about your background and kind of who you were coming out. Great example of the cream always rises to the top. All right, HR famous. He was Cameron Sackett. Look him up. He's Tim Sackett. She's Jessica Lee. I'm Chris Dunn. Until next time, HR famous. We are out.